Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides. That's my actual job title and last name, which is part of the reason why the mathematical model that I have built to predict various sports outcomes is affectionately known as Sideline. You'll know more about the model during the course of this episode, set to cover the 7 best college basketball games and one off-the-wall game scheduled to be played on Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. We have a jam-packed show for you. Cannot wait to get to it. In case you're here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. See the Google Sheet linked in the show description for Sideline's projections on every single game. Remember, this show covers picks on the best games for the best picks on all games. Sign up on Patreon or Black Book Sports. There are different packages, price ranges based on your needs. Remember, sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show is projecting a typical game and not trying to forecast it to a T, as that would be a foolish and impossible goal. We take a long-term view around here and don't get distracted when a team either can't hit or can't miss from threes. Those things bounce on the long run, but are hard to foresee before they happen. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, profitable Monday to start the week here on my 5 show picks. Miami, 2 weeks in a row, 2 Mondays in a row, making us proud, do us well, you know.
Looking like a wagon out there the way they're playing, man. That's
and Baylor too. I mean, I feel like that was, as a Baylor fan, I was very pleased with that performance. As a Baylor backer last night, I was pleased with that performance. Getting the big man back after a year injury has been huge for them. If you look at some of the advanced metrics on how the teams play with him on and off the court, I mean, it really helps him out. He helps them defensively, helps him down low in huge ways. And Keontae George, last night didn't even shoot the ball that much, just, distributing and saying, let the other guys do their thing, but he can also get it done when needed. They're really coming together. I'm not sure how deep of a run they can make, but they look really good right now, which is exciting. And, Texas, zigging and zagging with Texas, faded them last Monday, backed them on Saturday, faded them on Monday. So I feel like we've done pretty well with that one. They run into a little bit of a bustle. Texas Tech, having some life. I mentioned on the show, I said, hey, they got to get this win if they want to make the tournament. Like they're 3 in a row at home, like not out of the question.
Hey, they finished out strong here and have a win or two in the Big 12 tournament. You're going to start looking at 100% Big 12, which I don't know that the committee would do it, but they would have the argument for it to do it.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but I do agree that I think Tech was the one that they were losing all the games. It was pretty easy to be like, they shouldn't make it, right? But yeah, at some point you have to consider 9, maybe 10. I mean, it's such a deep conference, especially now that, again, one of the bottom teams in Tech is starting to look good. So a lot of
wins over Iowa State and Texas now,
and Kansas State
look like a decent resume.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of fun things on Monday. Tuesday's games haven't happened yet, so we'll see how those go later in the evening. Of course, we're unsure how well we did on Tuesdays. Hopefully it was good, but we'll go ahead and talk about Monday's slate here, get you some early action in. But before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. I've already mentioned the Patreon, but check it out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits to be found over there above and beyond what we do here. $3 per month gets you the play of the day on deeper slates, multiple plays of the day. For $2 a month, you get all the model picks and access to the Discord chat group, which is the place to interact with us and get questions answered about these or other games or other sports. Lots of people in there dropping tips on how to bet other sports. It's a lot of fun. I think you're well worth your price of admission. And for $5 more a month, you get ad-free shows and immediate access to all the plays and the shows, everything. Go to www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor for more details. But even if you're not there, still thrilled to have you here. Let's get to it. But as always, take what you like and leave the rest. Jake, we're going to start off with a game that I'm super excited about that might fly under people's radar here. America East battle, UMass, Lowell, and Bryant. You've got a 20-7 UMass Lowell team, a 16-9 Bryant team. These are the 2 top teams in this conference. Almost assuredly, you never know how conference tournaments play out, but you have to assume one of these 2 teams is going to be representing the conference in March Madness. They're both a lot of fun. They're both pretty decent. They're probably going to be, if I had to guess, I'd say like these would be the 16 seeds that avoid the play-in game right now would be kind of where we'd look at that. But they're not bad teams, and they're a lot of fun. Bryant plays at a blistering pace. Both teams have good offenses, okay defenses, not great. There's a reason why this total is 155.5. Model says 156.3, so even that high number, the model would still lean over. I'm going to grab the 2.5 points with UMass Lowell. Sideline says this is a true 50-50 coin toss game. I think UMass Lowell is the better team, but on the road, don't know what happens. Give me plus 2.5. Give me plus 115, 120, whatever it may be on the money line. If that's the way you like to play it, split your wager. I think who the heck knows what's going to happen. So give me the dog in this one. It should be a great contest. Jake, are you buying, selling, or passing?
Look, I'm buying this. I'm even more on it than you. I think UMass is a pretty much better team here. It's going to have an incredibly fast pace. So that over, I kind of like the over. Nothing too heavy, but I like it because UMass got a very good offense with a glaring weakness where they turn the ball over like crazy. And about an average defense that fouls too much and gives up too many open threes, which fits right into how Bryant's offense goes. But they've got a better offense and a worse defense than UMass Lowell. So I think that's where the difference is. They get to the line a lot, make a lot of free throws, or make a lot of them 76%, but they don't force a lot of turnovers. So the weakness UMass Lowell has is not really going to hurt them too much here. There's just like the last matchup went 98-79, and Charles Pride just had no help for Bryant. He's an exceptional player, was a great player last year. Now he's the key to that offense, and he's very, very good, but he's just not got enough help. Their poor defense is what's going to let UMass Lowell hang around and let up a billion points.
Yeah, like you said this. So UMass Lowell almost got to 100 the first matchup, and obviously that was at home. Now they're on the road. But I think you made a great point there that UMass Lowell's weakness, not really something that Bryant is going to be able to exploit. That's going to allow UMass Lowell to score a ton of points, and that should be what gets them the victory in our mind. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, Xavier and Marquette. I am reluctantly taking the 5.5 points with Xavier. It's really about the number in this case. I hate fading Marquette, but Xavier's not a bad team, even though they're not 100% with Fremantle out. They're still decent enough. There's an argument to be made that, they can kind of plug and play and they don't really take that big of a hit. Marquette's a really good team, but 5.5 is just too much in my opinion. Sideline says this should be Marquette minus 4.9. So on this side of 5, I'm going to take Xavier. Again, reluctantly, I just think it's too many points. I think they can hang around. It should be a great game. You've got two fantastic offenses and two defenses that aren't bad. Two defenses that I feel like, we've gotten so much more offense in college basketball this year. Last year, these two defenses would have rated out as average. This year, they actually rate out as kind of good because of the increase in scoring. But our offenses are part of the reason why there's an increase in scoring. They are both incredibly efficient. There should be a lot of pace in this one. Jake, the total in this one is 159, and the model says 164. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, I love the total. As I'm all over the total. Barely lean the other way. It's nothing I'm going to be too heavily invested in. I just really like Marquette with the way they're playing right now. Yeah. But, this is probably favorite game of the night. All the pace in the world, two very good offenses going at it. Should be one of the more entertaining games. What's crazy is Marquette's got the better, more efficient offense. They rank second in effective field goal percentage, first in 2-point percentage, and they hit a pretty decent chunk of threes, and they shoot a ton of them. They're hitting 35%. Almost 36% of their threes, and they shoot a lot. They work extremely well together, and they shoot a ton of threes. But Xavier's offense, very, very good, just right behind them. Their advantage is the three ball, where they rank second in the nation. They're hitting more than 40% as a team. Wow. Defense lets them down a little bit, but they've got the offensive rebounding even without Fremantle, they've still got the better offensive rebounding. They will make up for what misses they have and help balance out the bad defense they have. But Marquette, not really going to prevent them from the offensive rebound. I just think they've got enough to do it to get the victory and cover it, but nothing I'm going to be very invested in. But both teams' defense has really dropped in conference play pretty much, a large amount. They've fallen off. Offensive stayed relatively the same level. Turnovers and offensive rebounds is what's going to decide the game. But either way, I think there's going to be just a ton of points in this one. A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a game that's going to be on my television set. I think I could be wrong here. I think we're getting a little bit of value on Xavier because I think people are maybe overreacting to that Friday night game against Butler. Butler shot, I don't remember. I think their threes weren't as good, but from 2, they shot 60 some odd % from 2. at 65% or something from two. And it's just a situation where, and it's kind of like you said, the defense has let them down a little bit, but that's not what you expect from Butler. That was kind of an abnormal performance there. And on top of that, you kind of do expect Marquette to shoot like that from two. So if they do, like, that's okay, right? The pace is going to be there, and Xavier should score a lot of points. So it's one of those things where I think people are overreacting that a little bit. Again, this is one of those where model says 4.9. I would say 4.5 or 5 is probably the good number. So just a tiny bit of value on Xavier, not a lot, not what I'm running to the window on, right? There's a few games that I would be, right? But this one's one where I'm kind of like, I think at 5.5, you get a little bit of value. Again, I think it should be 4.5 or 5. That Butler game, again, kind of an abnormality there. But, I kind of lean one way, you kind of lean the other way. But I think we're both loving the over on this. Anything south of 160 just seems like a gift. It feels like this game's going to fly into the 160s unless both teams just go absolutely cold from three. And we don't see that a lot. And there should be enough pace that there should be enough time to balance that out if there's some misses, right? There should be enough happening to overcome that. So again, model says 164 on the total. So we're really loving the over there. And a game that we are not loving the over, Alabama at Tennessee. I don't know how long Tennessee under is just the gift that keeps on giving. I don't even. It's like full stop, right? That's all I have to say. Move on to the next game, right? It's that simple. It's that simple. The total is 144.5. I don't understand why. I just don't understand. Model says 138. I love this under. Alabama Auburn this weekend was an easy under as well in a situation where, again, we talk about Alabama, they play with pace and they have a great offense, but like that defense is pretty dang good, and people overlook how good that defense is just because of the pace. Tennessee not going to play with that pace, not going to have that sort of offense. I just think 144.5 is way too many points. The Tennessee unders have been working so great for us. They're going to go over at some point. It's not going to win every single night, right? Don't put your mortgage on it, but I just think under is a really smart play. Again, I think Bama totals and Tennessee totals have both been a little bit inflated here as of late. And so the under makes a lot of sense. With regards to sideline says Tennessee minus 2.8. So the model says the 2.5 is a pretty good number. I just don't see it. This Tennessee team just doesn't look right. They look kind of like UConn looked about a month ago when they started just not being right. And that took them a while to kind of get out of that funk. Obviously, Tennessee's got some time before the conference tournament, before March Madness to get right, but they just don't look great. And when you're not looking great, what you don't want to see is the team that might be the best team in the country in Alabama. Alabama does look right. They just had that one game against Oklahoma, but other than that, they are just an unstoppable train at this point. I don't really understand why we're getting points in Alabama. I love the plus 2.5. I love the plus odds. This is what I am running to the window on. I feel like even though it is at Tennessee and it will be a great home crowd, I feel like I would take Alabama -1, -2, just because just the way they're playing and the way Tennessee's playing, I just need to be proven otherwise that something's going to change. If you look at the totality of the season, this line makes sense, but we just haven't seen the teams we're getting right now aren't what we saw back in November, December. The teams we're getting now, I think Alabama can win this game on the road, despite being a tough place to play. Jake, if you're out there, what's your response to all that?
Look, I totally agree with both plays. Love the under, love Alabama. This is just the Tennessee team, since beating Texas, is just struggling. They've lost 3 of the 4. I mean, 2 of those were buzzer beaters, but
they were games that they should have run away in.
Vandy shouldn't have
been that close.
And then giving up 80 to Missouri was nuts. And then I'm not even sure you can count the win against Auburn as a real win, since it scored 46 points. The pace is just not like Alabama's pace is going to push Tennessee and make them uncomfortable. And if they make any kind of mistakes like they have been, Alabama is going to feast on it. Tennessee's defense is still very, very good, but you've got probably their 2 of their best defenders, maybe at least 2 of their better defenders that are supposedly going to play. I don't know. They've been practicing with Josiah Jordan-James and Brandon Phillips, but if those guys aren't at 100%, Alabama has a lot of holes they can pick. Tennessee's offense clearly not there. I mean, it could show up again. It's shown up before, but not one of those ones I'm expecting. I expect this to be 5 to 10 point game for Alabama, and well under this 144.5. I just don't think Tennessee's got the horses to run with them, and they don't want to run, so they're going to try to slow it down. And if those 2 guys are hurt, I don't think they've got the offensive talent to keep up, even though Alabama's defense doesn't force turnovers, not going to get them a ton of extra possessions that way. But And like Tennessee needs that, and without two of their better defenders, it's going to be bad because Tennessee's like effective field goal percentage is like ranks in like the almost average, and that's not going to help you here against Alabama.
Yeah, it's not going to help you in a power conference. It's not going to help you against the number one team in the country, right? If you're in a smaller conference, that's not bad, right? But for this, it's not good. And obviously, you talk about that Missouri game. That was the most recent one, and that game went flying over the total. It was the only Tennessee over I think we've had in quite some time. The difference there, though, I think is Missouri also plays fast, but doesn't really have a good defense.
Yeah. And
so I think that's Tennessee was saying, hey, we can exploit this defense, and they did. They scored a lot of points. Alabama's defense is very underrated, though. I don't know why we aren't talking more about this Alabama defense. It is insanely good, especially in an era like we just talked about with so many really good offenses. It's one of the few great defenses. And Tennessee's obviously got one, but Alabama's got the offense to go with it. Houston kind of in that same boat, great defense, great offense, but there just aren't many teams that can really pair on both. Purdue, right? Great defense, but offensively a little bit more challenged. It kind of all runs through Edey, and he's great, but they don't really have a lot of help there, right? Bama, one of the few teams with great offense and great defense, and that's the difference here, I think, between this game and the Missouri game, where that game was a shootout. And this one, I think, if Tennessee tries to get into a shootout, that it just does not seem like it's going to be a wise move. They're going to try to slow it down. Bama's going to try to speed it up, and I think they will speed up Tennessee because getting Tennessee into the 60s has been something that hasn't been the easiest thing to do as of late, right? And so I think, this feels like a 1st to 70 kind of thing wins, and I just think Alabama's that team. So I think we're kind of aligned here on this one, Alabama and the under in that one. One more SEC game to cover here, 9 p.m. Eastern, Arkansas at Texas A&M. Going to lay the 2.5 with the Aggies. Both these teams have been playing pretty well of late. I've been impressed with Arkansas. They're potentially going to get a key player back here going forward. Don't really expect that to make as much of an impact right now, but that is of note for them, of course, going into the tournament. But I just really like this Texas A&M team, the way they've been playing. It's been a really good run. They're a team that kind of right now is projected to be at that, 11 seed or something like that. And I just got to tell you, they're a team I do not want any part of in the first round, second round either. I want to avoid them because they look really good, look much better than that seeding. Who knows if that A&M team shows up, but the A&M team we've been getting as of late is really good at home. I think they can win. I like laying a short number. I'd lay 2.5. I'd lay 3. I wouldn't lay more. I'd rather lay 2. If this gets to 2, I'm a lot more excited about it. But at 2.5, I still think the Aggies are a smart investment. Total is 142. Sidelines is 142.7. This one should be interesting because A&M's going to want to slow it down, and we've seen Arkansas really have the propensity to try to do the opposite of what you want to do. And so if Arkansas really has their handle on this pace, I think they're going to try to really speed A&M up. So it will be kind of a battle of styles, as I think Arkansas try to make every game. But I think it's worked really well for them. But this A&M team, everything's worked really well for them. And so I'm just going to back the hotter hand here, and the Aggies laying 2.5 at home. Jake, you buying or selling?
Look, I'm buying that. Look, this is going to be a repeat of the Mississippi State game for Arkansas. Texas A&M just has a better offense than Mississippi State. Not as good of defense, but like the injuries have really derailed what could have been a great season for Arkansas. I know Nick Smith Jr. came back, played I think 17 minutes, but he did not look comfortable.
And I think it's probably going to be a little bit before he really makes his mark on the game.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played consistent basketball in a while, especially not at this level. It's going to be tough. He's a great player, just not going to be that useful yet. Texas A&M, not a great three-point shooting team. Don't need it. They avoid taking them because they run everything through the big man marble, which helps them tremendously because he is a very good passer as long as a very good scorer. So it really helps how their assist to field goal made ratio and makes it really hard to guard them. They also shoot the free throw line like crazy. They get there all the time because you play their big guy, a lot of fouls. They make an incredible percentage of them, and Arkansas fouls a lot on the defensive end. I mean, like Texas A&M second in the nation at 25 and a half free throw attempts a game, like right there, getting around on there. And then Arkansas is fouling about 29 times a game. They're going to get to the line, make up for the three-point shooting. Arkansas is not a three-point shooting team. They're actually a worse three-point shooting team. They're really going to need the turnovers to feed that offense, and Texas A&M does not give the ball away. I just don't think Arkansas will be able to keep Texas A&M to the 34% shooting from the floor that they had last time, or Texas A&M going 58% for the free throw line. I don't think those are repeatable. I think takes at A&M at home will get this game pretty handily.
Yeah, Arkansas won the first one by 11, but as you mentioned, and they did exactly what I was talking about. They really sped A&M up and got them out of their game. And A&M took some questionable shots and didn't shoot the ball well. You have to imagine at home, they're going to get that righted and they're going to be a little more patient, take better shots, shoot a better percentage. You have to assume they're going to make more free throws. Like you said, with the way Arkansas plays, they're going to get to the line, just going to make those free throws now at home. We expect things to go differently. This feels just like a Mountain West game where we just kind of are like, oh, just take the home team. Like, these teams are all really good. They're all really close. Just take the home team. And that's kind of what I think here. Arkansas got them at home. At A&M now, I'm going to take the home team because I just think that is going to be what swings it here. The A&M is going to be able to play a little bit more of their style, not be quite as – they're also – I think the other thing is Arkansas did a good job, I think, of surprising A&M because Arkansas was kind of doing a little Jekyll and Hyde act with their pace. Now A&M knows exactly what they're going to throw at them. And so, having a few days here to prep for that, I think should help them be a little more prepared for that this time around. So I like A&M here in the rematch. Sticking with the team in the state of Texas here, TCU at Iowa State. TCU still a little bit banged up here. Last game, neither Lampkin nor Miles played. I'm still assuming Miles is going to be out. He's going to come back at some point whenever it does. Again, it won't be 100%. Lampkin, I have no idea if he's going to come back. He played a little bit, and then I guess kind of re-aggravated and/or just one of those there's no rush type thing. Then, who knows? At TCU, again, I can't say it enough, maybe the best team of the Big 12 when fully healthy. At least can make an argument without Miles. Lampkin hurts. Miles really hurts. Everything runs through him. I'm going to take Iowa State minus 4.5, even if those guys come back. Like I said, I just don't think they're going to be 100%. So we're recording way too far in advance to know by the time you watch this, maybe by the time we get done recording or into Wednesday, depending on when you're watching this, we might know a little bit more. I'll try to retweet anything that I see. If you're on the Twitter, we'll talk about it on the Discord whenever news comes out. But I'm just not sure how much it's going to matter because, again, these guys, when they miss more than just a game or two, they tend to not come back very strong. And so I just think Iowa State at home has played really well all season. TCU, not the same team at this point. I'm going to lay the 4.5 with the Cyclones. Model says 3.9, but again, the model's, kind of hedging on the injury situation. It isn't 100%, these guys aren't playing that sort of thing. So I'm not really 100% trusting the model on this. I think if I were to fully tell it where TCU is right now without those two guys, I'm sure it would be a much stronger play on Iowa State. I think laying 4.5, I think laying 5 is perfectly fine with Iowa State. I think they end up winning this one by double digits, to be completely honest. Total on this one is 134. Sideline says 131.8, but the model has been underestimating the number of points in these two teams' games. A model would lean under. I might lean under too just a little bit because TCU knows they can't score a lot without Miles, and so that changes their pace a little bit. But it's just not really a total that I think is that great just because you never really know what an injured team's going to do on the road to try to spark something crazy. Instead, I'm just going to focus on the Cyclones minus 4.5. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm totally with you here. I just shaking my fist at the sky what could have been with this game. Like, it should have been a top-tier, top-level game. Instead, we're getting a very hobbled TCU team coming into an incredible defense at Iowa State that plays. It actually has an offense at home with that they don't on the road. I think it's going to get rough for TCU. It's just, man, I just wish this game was both teams fully healthy because this would have been incredible to watch. So Iowa State is the play. I lean under just because I don't think TCU is going to be able to score enough.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And if there's any drop on the pace because of their style of play, that's going to affect it as well. So yeah, I lean under, but yeah, I just like Iowa State here. I think fading TCU has been pretty profitable since the Miles injury, and I think it's one of those things where people just, I don't know, maybe they're too much anticipation that he's coming back. I mean, he obviously is a huge deal, but again, that first game back, I'm just not buying too much into it. And maybe they don't think it matters as much. And we see some times where the injuries don't affect the team too much. You just never know how good the backups are, how well they can play without them, that sort of thing. Until it happens, you just don't quite know. Or we talk about the big man for Baylor, right, coming back, how that's affected them and made them so much better. You just never really know what adding a guy, taking a guy away is going to do. You have some ideas, you have some guesses based off how good a player is, but sometimes you're surprised by the results. And if anything, I was surprised at just how much he mattered. We knew he would matter, but I mean, it's just been night and day without Miles for TCU. And again, and like you said, shaking your fist at the sky for sure. All of these TCU games as of late should have been great contests, and instead they're half the time they're out losing by 20 because they just aren't the same team. They fought really well at home against Baylor, couldn't get it done. I mean, I'm not sure how much better Baylor is than Iowa State at this point. Not by a ton. You flip the game location. Ames is a really tough place to play. I see them having a really hard time in this one. That seemed like their best shot against a rival in Baylor, and they couldn't get it done. I don't see how they win in Ames because it's, again, a really tough place to play.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably no rush to get those guys back. TCU's done enough to get in the tournament, get those guys healthy, run them a few minutes when they get in there to keep them in shape and figure it out in the real tournament.
Yeah. Speaking of teams, I guess now going to make the tournament. Here we are, Northwestern. I guess you're in at this point, unless you do something really monumentally stupid. I'm going to lay the point with Northwestern against Indiana. My big hesitation on this play is where are their heads? I mean, you beat the number one team in the country. In that spot, all the eyes of the nation on you, kind of thing. It wasn't like it was a buried game on Big Ten Extra or whatever, FS2. It was a marquee game. You beat the number one team in the nation. You're kind of like, now, unless you do something stupid, you're in the tournament with that win and the way they've been playing. Just a little bit nervous about where their heads are is my only hesitation. But I mean, this Northwestern team they've been kind of pretty decent. We talked about this yesterday, right? It's shocking to say these words and to think this, especially like you said yesterday after what they've lost, but they're not bad. I don't think they're as good as Indiana. I think they're a step behind, but I think at home that makes a big difference. Obviously, they don't have quite the home court edge potentially that like an Indiana would have or some of these other bigger schools. But I still think it's an edge to play at home here in the Big Ten, even though it's a weaker edge than some of the other schools. I think at home, I think Northwestern wins. It's not my favorite play of the night just because a little bit of that fear of, what they've been hearing all week. But you take that away, and I think the smart play is still Northwestern -1. Sideline on this one says true coin toss, so it doesn't really help you one way or the other. So we're just have to go with old school handicapping to figure out this one. Total is 135.5. Models is 136.3. Not a total that I would invest in one way or the other. Jake, where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I'm avoiding the total. I'm laying it with Northwestern against all logic about the letdown and everything like that. I just think the biggest part is Indiana is getting real thin. You still have Xavier Johnson, who's supposed to come back at some point this month, but he's not going to be, like you just mentioned, he's missed a while, so it's not going to be plugging. He's right back to where he was. You got Logan Duncan that's out with whatever illnesses he's having, and then Race Thompson's questionable. Just getting real thin in key spots. They've got the talent to pull this off, but I just don't think they're going to get it done. Northwestern is a very weird offense. Some of their metrics rate out towards the bottom of the NCAA, but the overall efficiency is well up there above average. And it's just weird. I don't know how that works. They don't turn the ball over, and they make all their free throws, so that's big. And then their defense feeds their offense. They're getting about 5.8 extra scoring chances per game on average, and that goes up to 6.5 at home. So maybe that's where it leads out, because they force their opponents to turn the ball over about 22% of the time. And a lot of those are live ball turnovers and leading to easy buckets. They force a lot of threes. Indiana's defense is good, and should be really good, but they're shown some weaknesses here of late. And they're one of the worst teams at forcing turnovers in their conference. They're losing the turnover battle in the Big Ten and on their Big Ten games. And a large chunk of those are live ball turnovers, too. They're just throwing it away, getting it stolen. They're also fouling a lot, and that's really going to be where this game turns, I think, with the way Northwestern makes free throws and how Indiana likes to play defenses. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, all of them like to block shots. That leads to fouls because you're swatting at things, especially at home. Their offense really stepped up, making 40% of their threes, but they're just not taking a lot of them, and Northwestern's going to force them into that. So I'm not sure how comfortable they are with it. But being at home, the free throws and the injuries, I think Northwestern's the right play.
Yeah, I guess Race Thompson's going to be back. I don't really know. I was a little surprised. I was caught off guard. I think everybody was. He's played the last 4 games. Everything was fine, and then all of a sudden it's out for precautionary reasons. What does that mean? Did he re-injure it? I feel like maybe someone's heard. I have not heard yet. It feels very hush-hush, like maybe there was a re-injury and they're just not saying anything, or maybe it was just a little bit of a fatigue, less of an injury and more of a just take a day off and he'll be back? I have no idea. And like you said, it's not so much that the one player is the biggest deal as much as just the totality of the injuries. When you take one guy out, assuming it's not, your best everything player like Miles, right, for TCU, and he's a very good player. You take one very good player out, you sometimes can handle that. But when you take multiple guys out, now all of a sudden, instead of playing your 6th and 7th guys more, now you're on your 8th or your 9th guy or something like that. It gets a lot tougher. So, I mean, that's the big question mark in this game is, who's actually suiting up for Indiana on a night-to-night basis. I really like this IU team, the way they've been playing as of late, but it's like, it feels like you're playing with fire with all these injuries, and they got to get healthy here before the stretch if they want to make the run in the Big Ten and the NCAA tournament that they want to make.
Especially the way Woodson wants to play. He wants to play pressure defense in your face, and you got to have legs to do that, and you got to have subs. And if you don't have subs, it makes it really hard to play that pressure defense. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so we're on Northwestern -1 in that one. And we started you off with an off-the-radar game. We still have our overtime game, the game that you don't want to watch. But we have a late-night off-the-radar game here that you do want to watch. UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara. Another small conference game that should be fantastic out in the Big West. UC Irvine 17-8, UC Santa Barbara 20-4. I've got UC Irvine as the better team, though, in this game. So they're on the road getting 3. I think this is pretty close to a toss-up. I lean Santa Barbara, but not by much to win. Thus, getting 3 points, I think, makes a lot of sense. Sideline says Santa Barbara -2. So getting 3 points here, I think, is too good to pass up. Again, my bottom line is I think Irvine's just the slightly better team. And so give me the better team on the road when I'm getting a number like this. Again, it's a relatively short road trip, obviously traffic, but it's not like flying across the country. So the home court edges in these Big West games often aren't that dramatic as they are in, say, the WAC, where you're flying halfway across the country, even the Mountain West with altitude, some of the Big 12 teams, really far apart. Some of these or the big crowds in the SEC or the Big 10 or something like that, right? It's just a game where the home crowd, I don't think is going to be – the home crowd will be good, but it's not going to be that big, not going to be that long of a trip. I don't think UC Santa Barbara gets a full 3 points home court edge here. And so I think +3 for UC Irvine is a gift. I really think this number should be about 2, where the model puts it. So I'm going to ride UC Irvine. I think they're a better team. I think they keep it close. It should be a great contest, a little bit more lower scoring than the first one we talked about. That was the off-the-radar game. Total is 136.5. Model says 136.7. So model thinks total's pretty well priced around that average type of game. Not super high scoring, but a great contest. And two teams that now we're talking about whoever wins this conference, possibly one of these two teams. It's a relatively deep Big West. So one of these teams might not even be the team that makes it out. But if one of these two teams makes it out, you're talking about probably more of a 14 seed, maybe a 13 seed, someone who'd have a chance to pull a first-round upset. So it's some good basketball here. I like both these teams. I can't back on both of them. So instead, just give me the dog because I don't know what's going to happen. 3 points is a gift, in my opinion. Jake, you buying, you selling, or you avoiding?
Oh, yeah, I'm avoiding this one. I just don't know what to do. I want it – probably want like UC Irvine at 4 or Santa Barbara -1 somewhere in there is where I would play it. But right here is very nervous to me on either side of this number. Should be an absolute battle from the tip. Like the last time Irvine lost by 8 at home, but they led at 3 at half and went cold in the second half. Did they go cold because defense, or did they go cold just like couldn't hit all of a sudden? So that makes me a little nervous. Like Santa Barbara's offense and coverage play has really stepped up. They've stepped up on both sides of the ball, but their offense has really come around. Their slow pace makes it hard to cover numbers at times. So they allow teams to hang on just because there's not as many possessions. I don't know what to do with the total either, so I'm probably just avoiding this game altogether. But I think Irvine's a smart play plus the points because I think it'll be a tight game. It's just not one I'm willing to play.
And there's nothing wrong with that approach either, right? Just saying, especially if you're up at this time of night, saying, I'm going to watch, I'm going to learn, I'm going to get more data to help me see how I feel about these two teams, because it should be an interesting game. So it should be worth your time, even if you're not invested in it. I'm like you, obviously, if you can get 4 with Irvine, that's even better. We got what we got here. So I'm going to take the 3 and hope 3's enough, right?
For sure.
All right. Well, that'll take us to our overtime segment. We were talking about earlier, we talked about off the wall games, but they're good games you want to watch. This is an off the wall game you don't want to watch. Jake, you are on Bradley -9 at home against Missouri State. Model says 9.5. Bradley has been overperforming relative to model expectations. Missouri State's been underperforming. So if you kind of take a little bit of interpolation off of that minus 9.5 the model says maybe should actually be 10 or 11. I think that's kind of where your head's at, right? You think Bradley wins by 10 or 11, something in double digits.
Yeah, totally. Missouri State been very disappointing this year. They came in like they were supposed to be battling to the top, like probably the one coming out of the Missouri Valley. Not happening this year. They have a below average offense and a defense that is just everywhere. They play one of the slowest paces in basketball. They turn the ball over too much. They don't go to the line, and when they do, they miss it. They're hitting right around 60%. And like I said, defense, they're just everywhere. Bradley's on a roll right now. They won 6 straight. They're really taking care of business. They just absolutely demolished Murray State. They have a very, very good defense and a really good offense. Have some of the same issues with the free throw line, but I don't think it's going to matter with going against Missouri State because they're just bad everywhere else. They're very, very good at three-point shooting and forcing turnovers. They're going to get all the extra scoring chances. Their defense fouls a lot. Not going to hurt them, as we just pointed out with Missouri State. Can't hit the free throws either. They do a good job of getting all their offensive rebounds and keeping the other team off the glass. So all the second chances are going to Bradley. I think Bradley will run out of here with 10 to 15-point victory.
No disrespect to Indiana State, but I'm a little sad we can't get Bradley and Drake both in the March Madness. I feel like and obviously Indiana State or one of the other teams in the conference might win the conference tournament. We might get neither, which would be sad. But I feel like both Bradley and Drake are good enough teams and interesting enough teams that I think I'd love to see them both in. I don't think they do, though. I think that the problem is that one of them is going to beat the other one and look better, and the one who loses is going to have a hard time making a case. So I think it's just unfortunate we can't get both of them. But Bradley, a pretty solid team. I'm saying get Drake in that conference as well. I think will be great. You've got those two teams that have kind of more risen to the top. Again, no disrespect to Indiana State as that third team, but it's been an interesting conference and better conference than some have been that we expected, that we had higher expectations of. Atlantic 10, right? No one looking at you. Unfortunately, Missouri State, like you said, not doing that, and that's a little bit of a disappointment for them that they expected to, try to pull the upset and help this, solidify their seeding in the conference. And as it is, it feels more like they're just trying to hang around. It feels really unlikely that they're able to pull the upset given the way Bradley's played at home. Maybe at home, they'd have a better chance, but at Bradley, the way Bradley's looking, it doesn't seem like they're going to have a great chance in this one, unless they get hot and Bradley goes cold, which again, as always, caveat, you never know when that happens. Unfortunately, you always hope it happens for you, not against you, right?
Yeah, I think in the next few years, Missouri Valley is going to be up there with the Mountain West type conference because they brought in Murray State, who had their coach and everybody leave, so you can't really count that one. Belmont, very good team. Obviously, Bradley, Missouri State, good teams. Drake's a good team. Indiana State, they're going to be loaded. I think it's only going to get better for them. But right now, Missouri State, Bradley should be a very easy winner.
All right. Well, that's all that we've got for you here on this episode. Jake, any parting words for the viewer before they get to Wednesday betting action?
No. Just hopefully Tuesday goes well enough to recover from all the Valentine's Day spending.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content provided on this channel. It's dropped right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow with more college basketball betting tips. And until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money